Hi, right now you're backstage in the guys' change room at the Grand Theatre for QMT's production of Fiddler on the Roof.
Hi, Mom. Keep the tradition. You're watching Studio 2.
Kirsta Teague. Welcome back to term 2 of 1992-93. I hope everyone had a great holiday. I know I did. But I will confess that I missed you, Ron, desperately.
I was going to say, yeah, it says desperately. And I missed you, too. Yeah, well, it's great to be back in front of the camera here. The first time out in front of Douglas Library. Finally, the weather helped us out a bit. Coming up this week in our first show in the year 1993, we've got a look at Welcome Back Week, Queen's Model Parliament, and 2, yes, count them, 2 Streetwise segments.
Great. But first, our top story. Over the Christmas holiday, my grandmother called me on the phone with some interesting news. Apparently, she knows more about Queens than I do. Anyhow, she informed me that someone had donated a castle to the university. I don't really know the details, but Fiona McCauley does. So, Fiona.
Well, this is very exciting news for Queens. Over the holidays, Queens received a 230-acre estate from a Queens alumni, and they're hoping to use it to be an international study center as soon as next year.
That sounds great. Let's take a look at the story.
The Hurstmansoe estate appears to be something out of a fairy tale. The majority of media attention has focused on its moated castle, but Principal Smith says there is a lot more to the property.
That includes not only the castle, but within a very short walk, the building that he was used as an office building by the Royal Observatory would convert to a student residence. And then there's quite an extensive set of telescopes mounted in what's called the equatorial group there. And then some distance from them is what's called the Sir Isaac Newton telescope building. The plan would be, I suspect, to have several courses offered each term, ones that make sense to offer in that location, but that would also be helpful for Queen's students in that they would count for credit, either as a distribution course in an honors degree or for some of them as actually within their honors program.
The addition of a European campus is a distinct competitive advantage for Queens.
Clearly, we have been trying to extend the international dimensions of Queens, and this is certainly a very important step in that direction.
Dick Bowman, head of Queen's Public Relations, isn't worried that the castle will become a drain on the university's coffers. In fact, there is some hope that the operation will generate revenue for the Canadian home base.
It's important that no funds from the operating budget be used to fund the center. It's hoped that it can be funded entirely from the benefaction. The £6 million, or close to $12 million, is intended to cover the purchase price of the property and startup costs and money for renovations.
The potential of the Hurstmansoe facilities goes beyond the Queen's community. The so-called Castle Committee haven't finalized their plans, but they will likely include a study abroad program for about 200 students and a study program for older executives.
It's 50 miles from London and not far from Gatwick Airport, so it really is ideally suited for, let's say, international conferences, that sort of thing. And the Canadian High Commissioner's Office has expressed an interest in our activities there already, and so has Ontario House.
The couple who made the generous donation is Alfred and Isabel Bader. Dr. Bader made his fortune in the chemical industry after finishing his MSc in chemistry in 1947.
He came in 1941. He was a Jewish refugee from Nazism. Came to Canada, was received at Queen's very openly, very warmly, and has always had a very fond spot for Queen's.
In these times of constraint, funding cutbacks and so on, it's nice to have a ration of hope. And it's nice to know that there are those people out there who have confidence that Queen's University can do things well.
Okay, I'm an art student. I was wondering, can I go to this if I wanted to?
Definitely. The Queen's Castle Committee is hoping that they can have programs there that arts and science students can get involved with. School of Business people, engineering. Anyone who goes to school here at Queen's, they're hoping that they can also do some time over in England.
Great. So it's for everybody. Got that? Everyone.
All in favor?
The usual formality of AMS assembly meetings was interrupted this past week. Before the agenda was discussed, members of the orientation committee showed off their Queen spirit and got everyone else to join in. A reminder to those who are really anxious to become a part of the happy group known as the AMS, the nominations for the 1993-94 AMS executive are available at the AMS office in the JDUC. The nomination forms can be returned to the office along with $50 until January 29th. Well, it's house hunting time again here at Queen's. Info booths were set up in McCrory this past week to help students answer some of their housing questions and to promote the Housing Expo planned for February 1st and 2nd. This event will take place in Lower Vic and will involve the lottery balloting for Queen's houses. Don't forget these important dates because you could get lucky. And Queen's musical theater production of Fiddler on the Roof begins this week at the Grand Theater. Steph Wilson has a preview of the show.
As we wait for a show to begin, few of us get to see what goes on behind the curtain. The performance is always exciting, but it is backstage where everything really happens. Armed with special backstage passes, Studio Q got a special look behind the scenes with the cast and crew of QMT's Fiddler on the Roof. We began in the dressing rooms where there was a real sense of camaraderie as the cast put on their makeup and costumes. Even backstage, the actors sang together and hammed it up for the camera. Up close, it is surprising to see how dramatic the actors' makeup must be. Moving from the dressing rooms to the stage, it was obvious that the cast wasn't the only group preparing for the show. Stagehands and managers were busy moving the sets into place. One of the set designers explained how the sets ingeniously rotate so that the movement in between scenes is as easy and quick as possible. The props room was set up too, holding possibly the most important item for this musical. The orchestra tuned up, and the production staff settled into their seats to view the first dress rehearsal. It's obvious that a lot of hard work has gone into the production, and Alex Heath, one of the producers, comments on the creative process.
We started planning for the show in the late April of last year when the board of directors selects the show, in this case Fiddler on the Roof, and then they have to appoint a producer. In this case they appointed 2 producers, and we in turn have to appoint a director, a music director, props people, all the production heads, and then they start working on their respective departments. And it all comes together, finally, by the end of January.
The curtain first goes up officially on January 21st, and performances run on the 22nd, 23rd, and the 29th to the 30th.
The stage is set, the actors are ready, and the orchestra tuned. It's only a few minutes until curtain. The 40-member cast of QMT's Fiddler on the Roof is preparing to transport audiences back in time to revolutionary Russia. Don't miss it. Come on down to the Grand Theater and become part of the tradition. For Studio Q, reporting backstage at the Grand Theater, I'm Stephanie Wilson.
Well, as everybody knows, school is a lot more fun when you don't have work to do. And that, my friends, is what Welcome Back Week is all about. Did you go out and have fun?
I just visited friends and, hung out and everything.
Yeah.
Got my life organized together.
And you told everyone how your holidays were great.
A million times.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, Studio Q was around for all of the planned activities. Let's take a look.
Welcome Back Week 1993 kicked off with the charity formal smoker at Alfie's, and Yuck Yuck's Traveling Roadshow pulled into Leonard Cafeteria for a fine comic outing. However, there were far too many of the Queen Mother of swear words, the F, dash, dash, dashes, for us to get any footage. So, let's take a look at the rest of the week's happening, shall we?
Okay.
Tuesday started off with Awareness Day, held in the Lower Kayleigh. The Women's Issues Committee, the Baha'i Faith Club, and Queen's Recycling all promoted their wares, just to name a few. The QP served up some fried green tomatoes to an all-female crowd for the Women's Only Smoker, and Alfie's held its annual re-celebration of New Year's. The patrons are really getting into the New Year's Eve spirit with their New Year's Eve hats, their New Year's Eve music, and of course, the New Year's Eve dance. But hey, there's something different going on here.
Office was that it broke the long-standing tradition by not serving any alcohol, right, guys? No.
Nothing at all.
Anyway, after a lot of hard work and a few broken fingernails, the plastic cork was finally popped, allowing this most expensive champagne to flow freely and realize its full flavor bouquet. As the big red apple came down on the mirthful merrymakers, I caught up with the earliest rising ticket liner-uppers, who got up at the ungodly hour of 10 to 5, toaster in tow, to guarantee their attendance at this annual bash. And I had to ask them,
Was it worth it, guys, or what? Awesome.
That's a big 10-4, guys. Wednesday saw the sidewalk sale move into the friendlier climate of Grant Hall, with tasty offerings of apple cider and, yes, even a few scrunchies.
Black velvet.
And back to Alfie's for the finest selection in 70s cheese. Disco files braided in and pranced around, dancing and dressing in the true revolting Travoltian style. Take it away. Woo. Saturday saw the Queen's Players at their thespian rockabilly best, playing for a happy crowd for hours at the Clark Hall pub. And back to Alfie's for a final encounter with the best and the worst of the student brewing community. Queen's Welcome Back Week 1993. There you have it in a nutshell. Until next time, this is Kevin Bryenton reporting for Studio Q.
Well, some of you may have noticed an unusually high number of commies on campus this past weekend. Yes, ICBC, the Intercollegiate Business Competition, was held at Queen's, with students from universities all over the country competing and gaining exposure to today's business environment. Studio Q's Karyn Berry filed this report.
Business students from across the country arrived in Kingston amid heavy snow last week to compete in the 15th annual Intercollegiate Business Competition held in Dunning Hall. ICBC is the longest-running and most comprehensive event of its kind in Canada and allows business students from across the country to come together and demonstrate their skills. ICBC chairperson Kevin Armitage feels that the event attracts the top business students in Canada.
That is representatives from 15 different universities across the country, and this is a record number for us. Really, there's no other school that could attempt to begin something like this and get it off the ground at the same level as we are after 15 years of growing.
The first ICBC, held in 1979, was a one-day, three-event competition with 10 universities taking part. From its humble beginning, the competition has grown to 7 events including marketing and debating and management information systems. Representing Memorial University in Newfoundland were Jennifer Duff and Jackie Senard.
I'm the marketing person, she's an accounting person, so she takes care of the Senate. So I determine what I want, and she tells me if we can afford it. It's almost like marriage.
Though both admitted to being nervous, Jennifer tried to ease her tension by bringing a bit of home with her. The moment arrives.
Chocolate.
They now go into isolation for the next 5 hours while they prepare their case for presentation. Students present their solutions to these case situations before a panel of very distinguished judges representing the elite of Canadian business. Peter Elwood, a vice president at Lever Brothers, was a judge in the marketing competition.
And we're always very amazed at how good their performance is in the competition. Most of the teams get the answer right all the time, and we wonder why it's taken us so long if they can do it at the age of about 22.
Arthur Solar, representing Nielsen's Cadbury, feels ICBC provides excellent exposure for all those involved.
It's also important to the university because I think all companies, such as ours in particular, have an obligation to provide support to what ultimately are going to be our business leaders in the future.
The hours of preparation are now over, and it's time to go before the judges. In the final standings, the University of Calgary proved to be extremely strong, placing first or second in every event. Queen's was also consistent, placing second in 3 categories, while Memorial University won the award for the most team spirit. I like that.
While the logistics of the intercollegiate business competition may have evolved over the years, the primary aim remains the same: to provide a forum for the constructive exchange of ideas and information while challenging the skills of the competitors. It is also an opportunity for tomorrow's business executives to meet with today's business leaders, and hopefully have a great time in the process. For Studio Q, I'm Karyn Berry reporting.
Last Thursday, a memorial service was held in honor of Dr. Douglas Purvis. Jen Mondoux has more.
On Thursday, January 14th, several hundred members of the Queen's community gathered in Grant Hall to pay their respects to Professor Douglas Purvis, a highly respected and well-liked man whose untimely death 2 days earlier was a shock to everyone.
The death of Professor Doug Purvis has been deeply felt not only by his immediate family and friends, but also by many members of the Queen's community. In the past week and a half, students and faculty members alike have mourned the loss of a man of many notable achievements, felt both here at Queen's and across the country.
Doug Purvis's professional career was marked by many successful endeavors. Here at Queen's, not only was he the director of the John Deutsch Institute, but he was also head of the economics department since 1987. As longtime friend and colleague Robin Baudouin explained, Purvis played a crucial role in the development of the department in the early 70s.
And he was very instrumental in attracting other good faculty and in building the graduate program, in the sense that he devoted a great deal of effort to both teaching in the graduate program and supervising students, and took his jobs in that area quite seriously.
Purvis's contributions went much further than the university. As his work became more policy-oriented in the late 70s, Purvis's expertise in economic and constitutional matters was often called upon by the federal government, as well as several news publications such as the Financial Post and the Whig Standard.
He always had a very international view of Canada, and when he started working in policy areas, his international perspective, I think, stayed with him right to the end.
Doug Purvis will also be remembered for his skills as a teacher, most notably developed in the first-year economics text he co-authored, used both here at Queen's and around the world. Yet the kind and generous manner in which Purvis interacted with his students was one of his more memorable qualities, noticed even by those who only had a few contacts with him.
On more than one occasion, he helped me with a problem I was having in one of my courses. The fact that he was willing to help a complete stranger indicated to me that he was a very nice and courteous man.
He treated students very well, especially generous with his time, both to faculty and to students. He was very well liked by his students. A lot of them used to seek personal advice with him, as well as academic advice.
Clearly, Doug Purvis is a man who will sorely be missed by all. For Studio Q, this is Jen Mondoux reporting.
You know, one might wonder where our present politicians got their start and how they got there. Well, chances are that many of them got their start at events like Queen's Model Parliament. That's an annual event which allows students to participate and play the roles of power brokers. Here with more on the story is Sharie Ross.
Have you ever wondered which one of your friends would be the future Prime Minister? Or have you ever wondered where the politicians of Canada get their formal training to perform, as it were, in Parliament? Well, Queen's Model Parliament took place this weekend at Grant Hall, with many aspiring politicians taking part in this rather jovial yet formal experience.
160 students participated in the weekend event. This year there was a special effort to recruit international students, says Public Relations and Publicity Coordinator Jason Abianca.
This year we actually aimed right at the international students. We went to the international meeting.
Many distinguished members of the Kingston community also participated in the simulated event. Mayor Helen Cooper acted as the Speaker of the House.
That's one of the lessons of politics always, of course, is to, I think, be consistent with what you believe in, but accept that majority of the electorate won't necessarily always agree with you.
The parliamentary process was strictly adhered to, as was exemplified when the finance bill of the Liberal government necessitated an individual count of votes. At this crucial moment in time, adamant demands were made to disallow entry of party members onto the voting floor after the whips had closed the doors. Despite the Liberal government's attempt to restrict members of the opposition party from entering the floor, the Liberal government was brought down on a vote of 54 to 75. Formalities aside, the weekend took on a rather humorous note. Lindsay McCain, member of the NDP, put forth the bill to subsidise menstrual products. The Reform Party, aka Communist Party of Canada for the weekend, sported its own designer fashion of tweed checked blazers and black armbands. The head of the Reform Party, Ron Cunane, tells us why.
Well, that was in mourning for the Queen because the day before they'd passed a bill abolishing the monarchy.
We are indeed too legit to quit.
The leader of the NDP, Michael Hilliard, was criticised by the Prime Minister, Rana Sarkar, for the irony of his socialist leanings and his preoccupation with Armani glasses and Gucci watches. Mike Hilliard retaliates, or does he?
My on-camera rebuttal. Well, I got the glasses really cheap, actually. So I didn't pay full price for them, but that's okay.
In addition to the fashion exclamations of the day, DJ Hunsel and Ali Velshi accentuated their follicularly challenged state by shaving it all off for the occasion. For any particular reason, we ask ourselves. DJ Hunsel.
Oh, it's not a political statement. It's more of, well, why not? It grows back.
The final item on the parliamentary agenda was the joke bill, put forth by the Liberal Party, a proposal to abolish sex. Michael Hilliard comments.
Oh, gosh.
What's your stand on that? What's your party stand on that?
Well, our party's a big advocate of free love, which
For Studio Q, I'm Sharie Ross, reporting.
Happy New Year! Even though the party is quite obviously over, the essence of New Year's still lives on. Well, for those of us who made New Year's resolutions anyways, and even for those of us who have already broken them. I checked out around Queen's campus this week to find out just how many Queen's students made resolutions and just how many have already broken them.
I did. I know I made one. Did you why don't you go first?
Actually, my New Year's resolution is not to go snorkeling down 20 feet and blow air through my nose, because that's how I burst the blood vessels in my eye.
Her New Year's resolution is to meet somebody new every day.
Yes, I did. I said I'd quit drinking. And have you broken any of those? Yeah, last night I broke it last 90 days, Jace.
I'm losing 10 pounds.
And have you broken any yet?
Oh, already.
Oh, hopefully do better in school this semester. I made a resolution that I would be nice to everybody.
My New Year's resolution was to stop being so serious.
No, I didn't make any New Year's resolutions this year because I think they're kind of pointless, and it's just a matter of time before you break them, unless you really want to change something. So most people just, make a resolution. It's kind of a blind faith that you're actually going to do it, and then a few weeks later you're smoking or eating the foods you weren't going to eat or whatever.
I'm not a big New Year's fan. I don't. It's just the whole New Year's thing just doesn't appeal to me all that much.
I made two. I promised myself I'd lose 30 pounds by April the 30th. And I also promised myself that I'd quit smoking except when I'm drinking, which isn't very often, so it'll probably just be like once a month or something.
I've never, ever even thought of making New Year's resolutions.
Oh, okay.
Try to go to class once a week.
Once a week. Have you broken that yet?
Yes, I missed my first 2 classes because I read the timetable wrong.
New Year's resolution, not really, same old one, keep exercising, but I was beforehand, so.
So you haven't broken it yet?
Not yet.
Oh,
No, absolutely not.
No? How come?
They're useless as far as I'm concerned, because I'll always break them.
I'm on my way.
His New Year's resolution should not be so loud.
Yeah, actually be louder. To be louder in this office, that's my New Year's resolution.
And has that been broken yet, or have you
it's
been
getting
a
there.
weak person, or?
I have been a bit quiet and reserved lately, so I'm trying to bust out of my shell, and
He's kind of a shy person. He's a shy
I'm
lad.
working on it, and it's getting better.
If you're like me and you like beer, well, you should have been at Alfie's last Saturday night. That's where the Golden Words held their annual beer brewing contest. beer connoisseur Greg Warman filed this report.
For most of us, getting a beer is as simple as going to the nearest campus pub or brewer retail's outlet. However, for an elite group, beer, and the brewing thereof, is an art form. And the Engineering Society, with its unwavering concern for the arts, held its 23rd annual beer brewing contest last Saturday at Alfie's Pub. Tom DeSuba, the event's organizer, explained the complexities of the event.
Well, basically, it's just a beer brewing contest for home brew and for beer brewed in, in-store breweries. And they just have to bring it in, and we judge it.
There are prizes for the best beer, runner-up, best label design, and...
The Brody Bowl is named after Ken Brody. A couple years ago, he brewed a really, really awful beer. And the winner of it, so the loser, has to drink his beer from it.
A select panel of celebrities had the distinct honor of sampling all the entries and deciding on the winner.
Lots of old editors from the paper, some AMS types. This year we've got Peter Milliken, the MP for Kingston, the area.
And there were even some sports celebrities on the panel.
I'm an amateur golfer, but my part-time job is Dean of Engineering at Queen's. So I kind of work the two careers as well as I can.
And it seemed that everyone had a personal style of judging. One former Golden Words editor had a unique method.
Yeah, smell. I don't taste them. I know better. Smell.
MP Peter Milliken decided to follow the instructions on the sheet quite closely.
You know, it asks, for example, do you like your mother? And, I think it's important in tasting beer to know whether you can answer that question properly or not.
Tim Hughes, the owner of Brouhaha and the event's official sponsor, also decided to follow the sheet.
And I'm judging by the average size of chunky bits as requested by the judging form here.
Well, soon the judging began and the tension in the bar began to thicken. One contestant was optimistic about his chances.
Maybe if mine's the only one, I might do well.
Soon after the sampling was over, the bribes were paid in full, the votes were counted, and the winners of Brouhaha baseball shirts and gift certificates were announced. Wayne Cook took first place for Best Label Design and also received runner-up honors. He was elated with his victory.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it. It's amazing.
Sean LeClaire took first place for Best Brew with his entry, Victorian Bitter.
I was really surprised because I didn't think that was a very good batch. So I've got a lot of motivation now. So with the prize, which is about $100 in beer, I'm going to donate it to my floor.
And finally, Ken Brody presented the coveted Brody Bowl Award to the losers. As others sipped from the cup, it gave the audience a chance to reflect on what a truly profound event this was. Or, as the Dean of Applied Science said,
Yeah, this is the major event of January. Now, January is a pretty slow month, but this is the major event of January.
For Studio Q, I'm Greg Warman.
Yes.
This past weekend saw over 30 teams compete in the Buick Sports Tournament. The teams competed in 4 different events: inner tube water polo, rugby, basketball, broomball, and volleyball. In the end, the overall winner was the Con Ed team, with the Mako Jockos winning the most competitive category. Sunday saw the wrestling team host their annual invitational wrestling tournament. 12 teams from across the province competed. Queens didn't fare as well as they would have liked, although there were some strong performances. McMaster took the first place, followed by Western and Montreal. The men's basketball team saw action against the University of Ottawa, beating them 85-82. The women's team also beat Ottawa. Final score 72-56. And the women's water polo team competed at McMaster over the weekend, winning every game. The team finished the season with a 7-0-1 record. That puts them into first place in the league as they're prepared for the championships, to be held here at Queen's in a few weeks. On Thursday, January 28th and Friday, January 29th, the second annual Careers Film Fest is going to be taking place. Tickets are $10, and it includes seminars with various guests from Toronto, a screening at the Princess Court, as well as a cocktail party in the Singing Frog at AJ Hangar.
A party?
So, if you want tickets, you can contact me, or you can get them at the Film House.
Yes, and
So you better
and
come.
don't forget about the party, because that'll be fun. Parties are good. And
I'm a
and
little
please
chilly out here, you know?
get the partying out of your system now to cap off January. Buckle down, get to work, for some of us who are graduating, it's the last semester. It's time to sprint.
And I hope everyone can get outside and enjoy this winter wonderland.
Yes, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. We'll see you next week. We got to get out of here. It's time to go. See ya.
Studio Q, the Queen's weekly television show, is brought to you each week by Cablenet 13 and the Queen's Alma Mater Society. Tune in next week, Thursday at 6 and Friday at 4:30 on Cablenet 13.